This stage was so horrible. It made me actually just say, I'm gonna have to finish this game another time. I really wanted to beat this game, but I just lost interest and it became so frustrating in the second half.
That right there, folks, was a man who was burnt out. Mega Man 8 was my fourth review of a game in the series in a very short period of time. The game pushed me to my limits and I was fatigued. I do still have aspirations to finish it another time, but for now I need to look elsewhere. My brief hiatus from the Mega Man series was great. Katamari games are some of the best out there, but the pain and consequences of reviewing them was just too much. I'm ready to come back to my favorite series of all time, but not the 8th one. No, I need to go back to a simpler time. All the way back. That's right. We're playing the original Mega Man for NES today. In the comments of my Mega Man 5 and Mega Man 2 reviews, many of you guys like to offer your own rankings and opinions of the individual games in the series. These are always interesting to read since many of you offer wildly different picks. However, one thing that is pretty much always there is that the first Mega Man is last or is very close to the bottom. I was often of the impression too that this entry is one of the weaker, if not the weakest, in the series. Only recently, though, did I actually finish this game on original hardware, despite owning it for a long time. And I even put up a short of the ending way back before I even made my first full review. It was a proud moment since I had always found this game to be brutally hard compared to the others in the series. Some of the difficulty is not in a fun and challenging way either, just challenging. We will get into that more later, though regardless, I was happy to finish the game. I cannot really explain why I got a hankering to play this one instead of a game like Mega Man 4 or 6 for my next review, but we're here and I'm all for it. When replaying this game to capture footage, I realized I was actually having a pretty great time compared to how I remembered the game being. Don't get me wrong, it can be a very frustrating experience at times, and it certainly feels like the first of its kind. There's two ways to look at the first Mega Man, or pretty much any old game: realizing that it was pretty groundbreaking for its time, and understanding the limitations of a game made in 1986, I believe, 87, or looking at the series as a whole and realizing that pretty much every sequel improved on the foundations that this game laid. Like I said, I do see the shortcomings of this entry, but I have grown to appreciate it more in time. In case you're not familiar with my history, I did grow up with an NES despite being a good bit younger than the console. No, I did not have these games when they came out, but as the internet became more and more part of my childhood, I started to look into older games and became very fascinated by them. And that's how Mega Man became my favorite series of all time. Old games were also incredibly cheap back then, and I'm talking around 2008, 2009. I remember picking up the first Mega Man at a play-and-trade for, I believe, just $15. I started with Mega Man 2, but eventually went back and picked up the first one, and I told my Mega Man 2 story in that video. I never found this game to be all that inferior to the rest of the series. Sure, it was a bit basic with only 6 Robot Masters instead of 8, but I excuse that since it was the first of its kind. I had a lot of fun with this game as a kid, but as I mentioned, I never beat it. I ultimately did spend a lot more time playing Mega Man 2 and 3 than with the first one. It wasn't until I started to see people really talk about this game's flaws did they become a little more apparent to me. Way later in life, during a summer when I was in college, I acquired the Legacy Collection on PS4. I remember spending a night or two just blasting through all 6 of the NES Mega Man games to get some easy trophies. When I played the games this way, I definitely felt that Mega Man 1 was pretty weak compared to the later entries. However, nowadays I've grown to like this game again. There are a few reasons for that. One, I'm an adult and have way less time for fun, so the fact that this game is short is actually appealing to me. 2, if you have seen any of my other videos, you know I cannot be bothered with stupid cutscenes about fighting Dr. Wowie. The simplicity of the game and lack of screwing around is really refreshing after playing something like Mega Man 8. And 3, my last 2 playthroughs of this game have used a different boss order that I learned from a channel You Can Beat Video Games, where he starts with Fireman instead of Bomb Man or Cutman, and it has totally changed the feel of the game for me. When I was playing this game as a kid and looking up YouTube videos about it, most people would recommend Bomb Man or Cutman to start. Both have fairly easy stages and the bosses themselves go down pretty quickly to the power cannon. I mean, it makes sense. Seems simple, but these openings actually set up the rest of the game to be pretty challenging and frustrating. Fireman was often thought of as one of the harder bosses to beat with the power cannon, but if you just wail on him with it, you can win the fight. His stage, though, is pretty tough. Coming here without the ice weapon to freeze the fire pillars definitely makes this level a challenge. However, one of the best features of Mega Man was the large life meter that he got, and we will certainly be putting that to use in this first stage. The reason why you start with Fireman is because his weapon is actually insanely fun to use, and it's very powerful. It shoots a large, fast fireball and creates a small shield around Mega Man. Everybody remembers the Metal Blades from Mega Man 2 and the Storm Tornado from Mega Man X, but I rarely see Fireman's weapon talked about as one of the most fun sub-weapons in the entire series. This series is rife with completely useless sub-weapons in later entries. I mentioned in my Mega Man 5 review that the Mega Buster is pretty much all that you need. However, with the extreme limitations of the first game, the fire here is actually amazingly helpful. Enemy placement is one of the main frustrations expressed by many people about this game. I totally get it. There's a lot of cheap NES era type stuff in this game. However, the fire weapon makes me feel like I have a cheat code on that allows me to lift that weight off my shoulder. Don't like these dudes that swoop down at you and knock you off the ledge? Well, just use fire and get a free shield with your powerful projectile. You find these moving floor spikes annoying? Just blast them away with one shot. It's rare to feel this powerful in any game from this era. You usually have to rely on a lot of skill and repetition to get through difficult sections of older games, but here, you can just blast away all your problems. I got through 4 stages with minimal deaths. Granted, I had some practice with this one since I did play it in childhood, but I attribute a lot of the ease to the fire weapon. However, once I fired up a Elecman stage, then I started to succumb to the ability to rewind on the Legacy Collection. Look, I know it's cheating, but I'm trying to get footage here. I beat the damn game on original hardware, leave me alone. Even with the fire, Elecman stage has always been a headache. It's just like how I'm not a fan of Crashman stage or even the first Sigma stage in Mega Man X. Stages with a lot of vertical in Mega Man are just never my thing, and I'll admit, I'm not the best at them. The best part of Elecman stage, though, is getting the Magnet Beam, which is another weapon that makes you feel like you're cheating. For example, I have never hopped on these platforms in the Iceman stage. Even in my childhood, I would just beam right across.
Ain't nobody got time for that!
Generally, though, I enjoy the stages in Mega Man 1. Again, this video is my appreciation for simplicity. There's no stupid crap like the mazes and Astro Man stage from Mega Man 8. Just get to the end, beat the boss, get his weapon, and move on. Good, clean fun. We're not muddled in story, cutscenes, intro stages, collectibles, none of that. Just play. Now that I finished every stage, it's on to the final 4 stages. Having just 4 Wily stages and not a whole bunch of extras is also great. Just throw me in, let's do this. One thing I still cannot stand are these giant hopping enemies. The Mega Man series made it a thing to always have some kind of big jumping guy in every game, but none are as frustrating as these ones from Mega Man 1. The window you have to sneak under the jump is very slim, and the lack of a slide kills you here. Therefore, I was very, very liberal with my rewinding here to get past the 3 in the first Wily stage. At the end of the first stage, we are met with one of the coolest bosses in the whole NES era, the Yellow Devil. The concept of this boss is really cool, and it's still impressive to see the pieces of it float across the screen like that. Of course, I did use the famous pause trick here to defeat him. Again, I don't have time. These remaining Wily stages pose some challenging jumps, difficult enemies, and a boss gauntlet with almost no health refills. They are a decent challenge for sure, but I like that they do not go on for too long. It's okay to keep it
Short, sweet, and to the point.
If you're wondering why my score suddenly changed in the 4th Wily stage, it's because I intentionally got a game over to refill my weapons. I forgot about the Yashichi power-up in the stage, which refills them all for you. Sure, I had a pretty good score going, but I was cheating anyway, so it's fine. Once I beat Dr. Wily, I accidentally triggered a glitch, and you can see it here. Forget if I had ever seen this before, but I'm still glad I captured the footage. So I reloaded my checkpoint and simply just beat the boss again. Captured all my footage for this game really quickly, and after making several videos on the more complicated side, I must say that I'm really thankful for a game like Mega Man 1. Perhaps having a YouTube channel about these games has also really shaped my perspective on the first Mega Man. I'm not sure if I would jump to recommend this game to people, but I would probably do my usual and still recommend Mega Man 2 or Mega Man X to newcomers. However, Mega Man 1 does have its place in the series now for me. One of the other areas that kind of falls flat in comparison to the rest of the series is the soundtrack. Obviously, the designers wanted music to be a focal point of the game given the Japanese title of Rockman. However, this is a very early NES game, so I understand that they had not quite mastered the hardware yet. You can tell that there are some really good ideas here, at least. The way I describe it is that there are not too many songs that are amazing in their entirety in this soundtrack, but there are some pieces of songs that are very memorable. For example, this riff in the Iceman stage always pops into my head when thinking about Mega Man 1. Also, the beginning of the first Wily stage theme is really good and captures that time for the second phase of the game atmosphere. Obviously, this theme is blown completely out of the water by Wily Theme 1 from Mega Man 2, but it still has its place. The rest of the theme is pretty unremarkable to me, and the same goes for Iceman's theme. Those are just two examples of pieces of songs that are great, but most tracks have at least a little something to offer. Yes, the rest of the series generally has a way better soundtrack, but much like the rest of this video, my point is that Mega Man 1 has things I can appreciate about it, and the game has a spot for me. Mega Man 1 set a lot of precedents, and musically it created the idea of having the Wily themes get more and more serious as you go on. Instead of ramping up to the final boss, the later Wily themes have typically been more kind of atmospheric and droning. There's no exception to that rule here in Mega Man 1. Across the series, you can find this shift in mood as you get closer to the end. However, of course, in Mega Man 8 they screwed it up, and they put a more ambient theme first, and then they put the really good theme as the second Wily stage. Overall, though, you really have to give the development team a lot of credit when they made Mega Man 1. I mean, it consisted of only 6 people, according to the Wikipedia article. The soundtrack was done by Manami Matsume, and supposedly they created the music, did the sound effects, and programmed all the data within just 3 months. I would say that is really, really impressive, especially for the era in which this game was made. So you absolutely have to give credit where credit is due. One thing that I can't really appreciate, at least in a serious manner, without laughing at it, is the artwork for this game, at least the American box art. You thought the cover for Mega Man 2 was bad? Well, geez, it looks like a masterpiece compared to this one. The Japanese box art is fine, and obviously they used that one for the collection. I couldn't imagine if some kid was given the Legacy Collection by their parent and was immediately met with this box art. They'd probably think their parent was a nut. Yeah, it's terrible, but you knew that already because the internet has bashed and made fun of this artwork forever. So, believe it or not, I actually do own the manual for this game. Sadly, I don't have the box, and it doesn't look like I'll be getting one anytime soon. Before we talk about the physical artwork, I will mention that the video that I'm using of me reading the manual is actually an old video that I uploaded before the Mega Man 5 review. I used to just read the manuals straight through and not show any gameplay and not really talk about a whole lot other than just the manuals itself. That was kind of the original idea behind this channel, but it was pretty lackluster when compared to the stuff that I do now. I really like talking about the game as a whole, but focusing on the manual and the artwork in some way. So what you're seeing is actually an older video that I've edited to fit the new style of this channel. So just putting that out there for transparency's sake. A very cool drawing of Mega Man here, and this is more so what he looks like on the Japanese box art for Rockman, as it's known in Japan. And I don't know, they probably could have just put exactly that on the game and it would have sold a lot better. A special message from Captain Commando. Thank you for selecting exciting and fun-filled Mega Man. What is that? That's awesome. Is this like hand-drawn? That's incredible. The Mega Man story. It's Mega Man versus the powerful leaders and fighting forces of Monsteropolis. That strange, multifaceted land of robot-like humanoids. Brilliant scientist Dr. Wright conceived the construction. Dr. Wright? Isn't it Dr. Light? These drawings are awesome. Melts and molds metals with flame-throwing torch flaring from atop his head. Here we go. This is awesome now. I mean, this could have just probably been the cover instead of
that. But anyway, Cutman, Gutsman, Fireman, Bombman, Electman, Iceman, Dr. Wily, and Dr. Right. And then earn from 50,000 to 100,000 points per victory. Enemy characters. Here we go. Again, just some amazing little drawings of these guys. And I would love to know how these were made. Watcher. These guys are tough. 800 points. It appears on Electman and the final stage. Sniper Joe, 5,000 points. It appears on Bombman stage. He became a staple in the series. Dr. Wily, look at him. 200,000 points. It appears on the final stage. Yeah, thanks for the clarification on that one. Here we are, the bonus symbols again. Check it out, guys. We have the old school Capcom with the grid. Look for these popular arcade-proven Capcom game packs.
For the most part, the color palettes are pretty basic. Some of them do work really well, like I think Bombman stage and Iceman stage are pretty great. Others are not as good. For example, I'm not crazy about a lot of the Wily stages or like Electman stage. For an early NES game though, it's pretty damn good. Compared to later entries though, especially something like Mega Man 6, it doesn't even hold a candle in the artwork side of things. However, something should be said to the fact that Mega Man's sprite pretty much never changed in this hexology. They definitely got that part right the very first time. In many series on the NES, you can see the improvements in graphics from the first entry to the third or second, so it's understandable for Mega Man as well. Mega Man 1 is far from perfect, and I would still agree it's a lesser title, at least when looking at the first 6 Mega Man games. However, there was something just so pleasing about going back and playing it again. Despite the shortcomings, I'm able to get a lot more enjoyment from this game than something like Mega Man 8. All 6 of the original games really do stack up as amazing platformers. I've already reviewed half of them at this point now, and I aspire to review all 6. Mega Man 1 is a game that I can truly appreciate for its simplicity.